The Keeper of the Scale, by David Rousseau. Chapter 1. The Weight of All Things. The chamber was neither physical nor imagined. It existed in the folds between realities, where time bent like light through water and silence hummed with meaning. Here, the keeper stirred. Their eyes opened, not with lids, but with awareness. The scale stood before them, ancient and vast, suspended in the void. One pan shimmered with the quiet pulse of order, the other flickered with the restless energy of chaos. For eons, the balance had held, but now it trembled. The keeper stepped forward, their cloak trailing stardust. They extended a hand toward the fulcrum, feeling the vibration ripple through their being. Something has shifted, they murmured, voice echoing like wind through hollow stone. A whisper answered from the chamber's edge. A mortal choice. Small but loud. The keeper turned. A figure emerged from the shadows, faceless, robed in threads of memory. Choices always echo, the keeper said. But this one it sings. They moved closer to the scale. The pans quivered, reacting to unseen forces. A child's lie, a leader's betrayal, a stranger's kindness. Each moment added weight, invisible but undeniable. Too many grains, the keeper whispered. Too fast. The faceless figure nodded. The mortal realm accelerates. Justice and injustice blur. The scale strains. The keeper closed their eyes. Visions bloomed. A courtroom where truth was silenced. A battlefield where mercy flickered. A city where indifference grew like moss. Each scene pressed against the keeper's chest. I must walk among them, the keeper said. Feel the weight firsthand. You risk forgetting who you are. I risk more by staying blind. The chamber darkened. The scale pulsed once, then stilled. The keeper reached for their mortal guise, a form stitched from empathy and resolve. Flesh would not hold their essence, but it would allow them to see, to listen, to judge. As they stepped through the veil, the faceless figure spoke once more. Remember, the scale does not seek perfection, only truth. The keeper vanished, and the world, unaware, continued to tilt. Chapter 2. Echoes of Injustice. The keeper stepped into the world wrapped in a mortal guise. Their form was ordinary, eyes that could be overlooked, a face that blurred into crowds. But beneath the skin, the scale pulsed, hidden in the folds of their being, attuned to every vibration of imbalance. The city was loud, not with sound, but with consequence. Every footstep, every glance, every transaction carried weight. The keeper walked slowly, absorbing. A man shoved past them on the sidewalk, cursing under his breath. The keeper turned, watching him snatch a sandwich from a vendor's cart and vanish into the crowd. Hungry, the keeper murmured, but not cruel. They moved on. At a crosswalk, a woman in a tailored suit ignored the child tugging at her sleeve. The child's eyes were wide, pleading. The woman's voice was clipped. I told you not now. The keeper paused. The scale within them tilted slightly. Indifference, they whispered. A grain heavier than it seems. They entered a courthouse next. The air was thick with tension. A judge read a verdict. A man wept. A woman smiled. The keeper felt the tremor ripple through the chamber. Outside, they sat on a bench beside an old man feeding pigeons. You see a lot, the keeper said. The man chuckled. I see what people want me to forget. The keeper tilted their head. And what do they forget? That kindness is louder than cruelty. Just takes longer to echo. The keeper nodded. I'm listening for both. They rose and walked again. A teenager helped an elderly woman cross the street. A police officer ignored a plea. A nurse stayed late. A landlord raised rent. Each moment added weight. By dusk, the keeper stood atop a building, watching the city breathe. So many grains, they said aloud. So many echoes. A voice answered from the wind. Will you judge them? Not yet, the keeper replied. First, I must understand. They closed their eyes. The scale shimmered within. One pan dipped slightly. The other rose. The keeper opened their eyes. Tomorrow, they said, I returned to the hall. And below, the city kept tilting. Chapter 3. The Ledger of Imbalances. The Hall of Equilibrium was quiet, but not still. Its walls shimmered with the weight of recorded consequence, etched in light, sound, and memory. The keeper stepped through the threshold, shedding their mortal guise like mist from skin. The scale awaited, suspended in the center of the chamber. It no longer trembled. It leaned. The keeper approached the ancient ledger, a tome bound in paradox. pages that turned themselves, ink that rewrote with time. They placed their hand upon it. The pages flared open. "Begin recording," the keeper said. The ledger responded with a low hum. Images bloomed across its surface, moments gathered from the mortal realm. A child denied justice. A tyrant rewarded. A stranger's kindness ignored. A nurse's sacrifice unseen. Each entry pulsed with weight. The keeper's fingers moved across the page, tracing patterns. "Too many distortions," they murmured. "Too few counterweights." A voice echoed from the chamber's edge. "You expected symmetry?" The keeper turned. Another figure stood there, cloaked in silver threads, eyes like polished obsidian. "I expected rhythm," the keeper replied. "Even imbalance has a cadence. This is chaos without music." The silver figure stepped forward. "Then something plays out of tune." The keeper nodded. "Not random. Intentional." They gestured, and the ledger shifted. A new pattern emerged. Lines of influence, threads of manipulation. The same names appeared again and again. The same outcomes. The same tilt. "Someone is rewriting consequence," the keeper said. "Not just reacting to fate, but bending it." The silver figure's voice darkened. "That is forbidden. Then it must be judged." The keeper closed the ledger. The chamber dimmed. The scale pulsed once, then settled. "I must trace the source," the keeper said. "Follow the imbalance to its architects." The silver figure hesitated. "And if they are mortal, then they will be weighed." The keeper turned toward the veil once more. Their cloak reformed, stitched from resolve and memory. "Record closed," they said. The ledger sealed itself. The hall fell silent. And the keeper vanished into the world again, this time not to observe, but to uncover. Chapter 4. A World Tilted. The keeper stood at the edge of a wheat field that had bloomed out of season. The sun hung low, casting golden light on stalks that should not exist. In the distance, a village celebrated an unexpected harvest. Children danced. Elders wept with joy. But the keeper felt the imbalance. "This prosperity," they said aloud, "was not earned." A voice answered from the wind. "Does that make it unjust?" The keeper turned. No one was there. Only the scale, pulsing faintly beneath their skin. They walked through the village. A merchant handed out coins with a smile too wide. A healer cured a wound with a touch that should not have worked. A beggar vanished into a mansion overnight. Each moment shimmered with distortion. Later, in a city far from the village, the keeper watched a storm descend without warning. Lightning split the sky. Floodwaters rose. A family clung to their rooftop, calling for help that never came. The keeper whispered, "This suffering was not chosen." They moved through the world like a shadow, observing. A child found a lost parent in a crowd, joy unearned. A thief escaped justice, pain unpunished. A leader rose to power on lies that felt like truth. The scale within the keeper leaned further. In a quiet cafe, they sat across from a woman who stared into her coffee as if it held answers. "Do you feel it?" the keeper asked. She looked up. "Feel what?" "The tilt." She hesitated. "Something's wrong. But no one says it out loud." The keeper nodded. "Because it's happening slowly. Like a table leg shortening by a grain each day." She leaned in. "And when does it collapse?" "When the grains become a landslide." The woman blinked. "Are you someone important?" "I'm someone who listens." She smiled sadly. "Then listen harder. We're screaming." The keeper left the cafe and walked into the night. Above, stars flickered in strange patterns. Below, the world twisted, storms where there should be calm, fortune where there should be struggle. In the hall of equilibrium, the scale groaned. The keeper returned briefly, placing a hand on the fulcrum. "It leans," they said. "Not from chance. From design." A voice echoed from the chamber's depths. "Then find the architects." The keeper stepped back into the mortal realm, cloak reforming, eyes sharper. The world was no longer trembling. It was tilting. Chapter 5. The Ones Who Manipulate Fate. The keeper walked through the mortal realm with sharper intent. No longer an observer, they were a hunter. The scale within them thrummed, pulling their steps toward the source of distortion. In the heart of a city, behind doors that mortals believed ordinary, the keeper found whispers of a gathering. A faction cloaked not in robes, but in influence. Politicians, merchants, scholars, soldiers. Each one carried threads of power woven into the world's fabric. The keeper entered their chamber unseen, watching as they spoke. A man with a voice like iron slammed his hand on the table. "We decide outcomes. No more leaving it to chance. No more waiting for justice to stumble in late. A woman leaned forward, eyes gleaming. We tilt the scale. Quietly. Efficiently. Who will question prosperity when it arrives in their lap? Who will mourn fairness when they are fed? Another laughed. Balance is a myth. Control is real. The keeper's cloak rippled. They stepped into the light. You speak of control, the keeper said, voice resonant. But you speak of theft. The room fell silent. The iron-voiced man sneered. And who are you to judge us? I am the one who listens to consequence, the keeper replied. Every grain you place upon the scale echoes louder than you imagine. The woman rose. We are not villains. We are architects. Mortals suffer under chaos. We bring order. Order without justice is tyranny, the keeper said. The faction shifted uneasily. Some looked defiant, others uncertain. The iron-voiced man leaned forward. We rewrite fate. We decide who rises, who falls. And we will not stop. The keeper's eyes narrowed. Then you are not architects. You are manipulators. And the scale leans because of you. The woman's voice softened, almost pleading. If the world tilts, perhaps it is better tilted toward prosperity, toward strength. The keeper shook their head. Prosperity stolen is rot disguised as fruit. Strength without fairness is ash. The chamber trembled. The scale within the keeper pulsed violently. You cannot silence consequence, the keeper said. It will weigh you, whether you acknowledge it or not. The iron-voiced man stood, fists clenched. Then weigh us. See if we care. The keeper turned, cloak swirling like shadow and light entwined. I will. And the verdict will not be yours to choose. They vanished, leaving the faction in uneasy silence. Some smirked, convinced of their power. Others stared at the empty space, haunted by the echo of the keeper's words. Above, the stars flickered strangely. Below, storms brewed. The scale leaned further. And the keeper knew the imbalance was no accident. It was design. Chapter 6, Court of Shadows. The Hall of Equilibrium dissolved into mist, and the keeper stepped into a chamber older than memory. Shadows lined the walls, shifting like living figures. Here sat the council, the arbiters of consequence, beings who had watched civilizations rise and fall without ever lifting a hand. The keeper bowed slightly, cloak trailing across the floor. The scale pulsed faintly at their side, its glow casting long streaks of light across the chamber. A voice emerged from the dark, deep and resonant. Keeper, you have returned. What weight do you bring? The keeper raised their head. The mortal realm tilts. Not by chance, but by design. A faction manipulates fate, bending consequence to their will. The shadows stirred. Another voice, sharp as glass, spoke. Then purge them. Mortals cannot be trusted with such power. A softer voice countered, like wind through leaves. Mortals must be allowed to stumble. Balance is not perfection. It is struggle. To purge them is to silence the lesson. The keeper stepped forward. I have seen cruelty, yes. But I have also seen kindness. Sacrifice. Bravery. These grains weigh heavily too. To erase mortals is to erase their potential. The chamber darkened. A figure of flame rose from the shadows. Potential is not enough. The scale leans. If it breaks, all realms collapse. Better to reset than to risk ruin. The keeper's hand tightened on the fulcrum. Reset is destruction disguised as mercy. The council murmured. Some voices agreed, others opposed. The chamber filled with debate, overlapping like waves crashing against stone. Finally, silence fell. A single voice, ancient and steady, spoke. Keeper, the decision is yours. You alone bear the scale. You alone will choose. The keeper's breath caught. They looked down at the glowing pans, order flickering faintly, chaos burning brighter. I did not seek judgment, the keeper said quietly. But judgment has found me. The flame figure leaned closer. Then choose. Purge or permit. The wind voice whispered. Guide, do not destroy. The keeper closed their eyes. Visions surged, mortals laughing, fighting, grieving, healing. The faction manipulating fate. The storms. The prosperity stolen. The kindness overlooked. They opened their eyes. I will not decide here. Not yet. I must return to the mortal realm once more, to see if their counterweights can rise. The chamber stirred again. Some voices hissed in disapproval. Others sighed in relief. The ancient voice spoke once more. Then go, keeper. But know this, the scale cannot wait forever. Each grain falls, and the fulcrum strains. The keeper bowed. I understand. They turned, cloaks swirling, and stepped back into the veil. The court of shadows faded behind them, leaving only echoes. And the keeper carried the weight of choice alone. Chapter 7. The Test of Worth. The keeper descended once more into the mortal world, their cloak reshaping into the guise of an ordinary traveler. The scale pulsed faintly within them, heavy from the council's debate. Every step carried the weight of possibility. Purge or permit, destruction or guidance. They walked through a war-torn street where buildings leaned like broken teeth. Smoke curled upward, but amid the ruin, the keeper saw a boy kneeling beside a wounded dog. His hands trembled, yet he tore his own shirt to bind the creature's leg. The keeper paused. A grain of mercy, they whispered. The scale within them flickered, lighter for a moment. Further along, they found a woman standing before armed men. Her voice shook, but she did not move aside. You will not take them, she said, shielding strangers she had never met. The soldiers hesitated, unnerved by her defiance. The keeper stepped closer, unseen. A grain of courage, they murmured. Unexpected, strong. At dusk, the keeper entered a small home where candles burned low. A father sat at the bedside of his sick child, refusing sleep, whispering stories to keep fear at bay. His voice cracked, but he continued. The keeper's chest tightened. A grain of sacrifice. Quiet, but heavy. The scale pulsed again, its brighter pan rising. Later, in a crowded marketplace, the keeper overheard laughter. A group of strangers pooled their coins to feed a hungry family. No one asked for thanks. No one sought recognition. The keeper smiled faintly. A grain of compassion. Simple. Pure. As night fell, the keeper stood atop a hill overlooking the city. The stars above shimmered strangely, but the world below glowed with small acts, threads of kindness woven through chaos. A voice drifted from the wind, familiar and sharp. Do you believe these grains outweigh the faction's manipulations? The keeper answered softly, not yet. But they prove mortals are not only architects of ruin. They are architects of hope. The voice pressed. Hope does not steady the scale. The keeper's eyes narrowed. No, but it resists collapse. Silence followed. The keeper closed their eyes, visions swirling, wars, greed, cruelty, but also bravery, sacrifice, compassion. The scale leaned, but not as far as before. I will not decide in haste, the keeper said. The test of worth is ongoing. Mortals must be weighed not only by their failures, but by their resilience. The wind whispered once more. Then watch carefully. The breaking point approaches. The keeper opened their eyes, cloak rippling in the night air. I will, they said. And when the verdict comes, it will be earned. The scale pulsed, steadier for now. And the keeper walked on, listening for the next grain of worth. Chapter 8. The Breaking Point. The keeper stood at the edge of a battlefield that had not yet erupted. Soldiers gathered in silence, their weapons gleaming under a sky swollen with storm clouds. The air itself seemed to tremble, heavy with choices not yet made. The scale within the keeper pulsed violently. Each heartbeat carried the weight of ambition, greed, and fear. They are preparing for war, the keeper whispered. A voice rose from the shadows, familiar and sharp. War is the natural end of imbalance. Mortals will destroy themselves. The keeper shook their head. Not natural. Engineered. The faction's hand is everywhere. They walked among the soldiers unseen. A young recruit clutched a letter from home, eyes wet but determined. Another sharpened his blade with trembling hands. A commander barked orders, his voice laced with hunger for glory. The keeper paused. Each grain falls. Each choice adds weight. The scale lurches. Later, in a palace of marble and gold, leaders feasted while their people starved. Greed coiled around them like smoke. The keeper stood in the corner, invisible, watching as one raised a goblet. To our rise, the leaders said. The keeper's voice cut through the chamber. And to their fall. The goblet froze midair. The leader glanced around, unsettled. Who speaks? Consequence, the keeper replied. You drink from a cup filled with imbalance. It will poison you. The leader laughed nervously. Balance is for the weak. Power is for the bold. The keeper's eyes narrowed. Power without balance is collapse. The chamber trembled. Outside, thunder cracked. The keeper moved on, walking through cities unraveling. Crops failed without reason. Fortunes appeared overnight, vanishing just as quickly. Families fractured. Nations whispered of war. On a quiet street, a child asked their mother, "Why is everything breaking?" The mother held the child close. "Because people forget fairness." The keeper's chest tightened. "Even mortals see the tilt," they murmured. In the hall of equilibrium, the scale groaned under the weight of countless choices. The pans swung wildly, no longer trembling but lurching. The keeper placed their hand upon the fulcrum. "It is not whether the balance is broken," they said softly. "It is how badly." A voice from the chamber's depths answered. "Then the verdict must come soon." The keeper closed their eyes. Visions surged, wars igniting, greed spreading, kindness flickering like fragile flame. The scale leaned, threatening collapse. They opened their eyes. The breaking point is here. The world holds its breath. And the keeper knew the next grain could shatter everything. Chapter 9. The Decision of the Keeper. The hall of equilibrium glowed with a light that was neither dawn nor dusk. The scale towered in the center, its chains rattling softly as if burdened by invisible storms. The keeper entered, cloak heavy with the echoes of mortal deeds. They approached the fulcrum, each step resonating like a drumbeat. The ledger lay open beside the scale, its pages filled with acts of cruelty, mercy, greed, and sacrifice. The keeper placed their hand upon it, and the chamber stirred. A voice rose from the shadows. "You have seen enough. Choose." The keeper's jaw tightened. "I have seen imbalance. I have seen manipulation. But I have also seen mortals resist collapse with courage and compassion." Another voice, sharp as flame, hissed. "Too little. Too late. Reset the world. Begin anew." A gentler voice countered, like wind through leaves. "Do not erase what can still grow. Guide them. Restore balance." The keeper closed their eyes. Visions surged, wars flickering at the edges of nations, greed spreading like smoke, but also a child binding a wounded dog, a woman defying soldiers, strangers feeding the hungry. They whispered, "Every grain matters." The scale groaned, one pan glowing faintly, the other burning with fire. The keeper placed both hands upon the fulcrum. "I weigh all things," they said. "Every cruelty, every kindness, every manipulation, every sacrifice." The chamber darkened. The arbiters leaned forward, their forms shifting in shadow. The keeper's voice rose, steady and resonant. "Mortals are flawed, but they are not finished. To reset is to silence their struggle. To restore is to honor their worth." The flame voice snarled. "Then you condemn us to watch imbalance grow again." The keeper's eyes burned with light. Equilibrium is not permanence. It is rhythm. It is the dance of consequence. And mortals must be allowed to dance. The scale pulsed violently. Sparks flew from its chains. The pans tilted, then steadied. The keeper pressed their hand firmly upon the fulcrum. "My verdict is restoration." The chamber shook. The ledger's ink rewrote itself, cruelty countered by compassion, injustice tempered by sacrifice. The scale steadied, glowing with renewed balance. The voices fell silent. Only the keeper's breath filled the hall. They whispered, "For now, the world holds." But deep within, the keeper knew equilibrium was never permanent. Another tilt would come. Another verdict would be demanded. For now, though, the scale was steady, and the keeper carried the weight of choice alone. Chapter 10. A New Balance. The hall of equilibrium glowed with a steady radiance. The scale, once trembling and lurching, now hung in silence, waiting. The keeper stood before it, cloak heavy with the echoes of every mortal act they had witnessed. Their hand rested on the fulcrum, the decision already formed. "Restoration," the keeper whispered. The word carried through the chamber like a tide. The scale pulsed. Light spilled from the pan of order, weaving threads across the mortal realm. Shadows recoiled, flames dimmed, and the weight of cruelty softened beneath the counterweight of compassion. In a distant city, a courtroom shifted. A judge who once silenced truth now spoke it. A verdict reversed, justice restored. In a village, crops that had failed bloomed again, not unnaturally, but in rhythm with the seasons. Prosperity returned, earned through toil and patience. In a palace, a leader raised a goblet, only to feel its weight turn to ash. Lies unraveled, greed exposed. The people stirred, demanding fairness. The keeper watched these threads weave themselves into the fabric of reality. "Balance returns," they said softly. Not perfect, but steady. A voice rose from the shadows of the hall. You have chosen mercy. The keeper turned. I have chosen truth. Mercy is only its echo. Another voice hissed. And what of the faction? They will rise again. The keeper's eyes burned with light. Then they will be weighed again. The scale does not sleep. The chamber fell silent. The ledger closed itself, ink shimmering with new entries. Acts of justice corrected, kindness amplified, cruelty diminished. The keeper stepped back, cloak rippling. Equilibrium is never permanent. It is rhythm. It is struggle. It is the dance of consequence. They turned toward the veil, preparing to walk once more among mortals. In the mortal realm, a child laughed as their mother lifted them high. A soldier laid down his weapon. A stranger offered bread. Small acts, grains of worth, falling steadily into the scale's brighter pan. The keeper whispered, "For now, the world holds." The scale glowed, steady but alive, waiting for the next tilt. And the keeper carried the weight of balance, knowing the verdict was never final. Only borrowed, only earned, only temporary.